What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jamal McCant from the 140 Plus Sports. Here I break down betting angles for the NBA, NFL, college basketball, and college football. I do dabble in the NHL and MLB, but those other sports are my specialties. This is day 2. So again, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to do a quick recap of what we had yesterday and just everything that was on the board in terms of the NBA. I didn't really get into college basketball yesterday. I might dabble in it today in a separate video so you guys don't have to watch this full NBA slate in order to get those bets. Today, much shorter card. Yesterday, we had 11 games. If you tuned in, I gave you guys 5 different plays. We went 3 and 2 on those plays and profited, very small profit of, I think it was 0.75 units. If you're a $100 bettor, for those who don't understand, if you're a $100 bettor, that's $75. If you're a $1,000 bettor, that's $750. So, we're going to move on to what we did yesterday and just go over a quick recap of everything that was on the board. We started off with the Pacers versus the Wizards. I did give out the Pacers -5. That was an early bet before they listed Bradley Beal out. The line did move 2 points, but it didn't matter because they didn't even win the game. I'm not even mad at that one. It did take a historic performance from Russell Westbrook. I believe he had 35 points and 21 assists or something like that, and he also reached double-digit figures in rebounds as well. So if it takes that to beat me, then that's perfectly fine. But I live with that one, and I'll die on that sword. So I did give out the Pelicans first half. That was for a half unit. We cashed on that one. They ended up winning the full game, which I did recommend as well. But I liked the first half much stronger than the full game. Timberwolves, Nets, I recommended the Nets first half. I did feel like they were going to let off of the pedal later in the game. It's hard to take that team full game as they do go up big early in a lot of games and then they let off at the end, giving way for some of these dogs to cover. Heat Knicks, I recommended the Knicks first half. These are not, when I say recommended, these are not plays. These are just games I went over. And I gave a recommendation or a lean. I recommended the Knicks first half. I didn't like the line. It looked like a trap. When you have the Miami Heat coming in there off of, I don't know how many losses they had in a row, but I did record the last 5 losses, not only straight up, but against the spread. They were coming into that game cold. So to see a -4.5 for the Miami Heat, it did ring some alarms. And that's exactly why I didn't recommend the full game. But I did recommend Knicks first half. That ended up cashing if you took that. Raptors versus Pistons. I recommended the Pistons first half. It kind of played out how I thought it would in the first half. I didn't expect the Raptors to fall flat the entire game, which they did. But if you did go off of that recommendation, you cashed on that one. We had the Rockets versus Grizzlies. I wasn't really sure on this. I did lean the Grizzlies, but I wasn't really confident on that one just because of the line. It being -8, that's a lot of points for a team that's below 500. However, they were facing the Rockets, so take that for what it's worth. And you know, the Rockets are going to fight with you, but they are losing a lot of games by a lot of points. So it's a lot of points, but when you look at when you think about the end result of some of these games and what you think the score might be, it's easy to see that this game could have been a 15-point win for the Grizzlies. It could have been a 30-point win. That's just the way the Rockets are playing. Ended up winning by 10. It was very close. I know people were sweating bullets if you were on that -8, but it ended up cashing. Move on to the next game. Mavericks Thunder, didn't have a play in this game. I did lean the Mavericks, but it was just too many points for me, especially on the road. 11 points is just too much. But they did end up cashing. I did recommend the Mavs on that one. Close to start the game, but as the game progressed, it was a massacre. So, Kings Spurs. This was one of my favorite ones. I did have a play on the Kings in this game. They ended up, and I had the Kings full game. They ended up cashing, so that was they were up for the most part for most of the game. Spurs did try to come back. I believe it was either the third or the fourth quarter. I saw them; they were down by 3 at one point, but then Kings just opened it back up. So we won that one. I gave out the Chicago Bulls first quarter. That was mainly based off of feel. Wasn't any statistics or any trends, or not any notable trends that I had. But I did realize as a fan that the Warriors do come out slow whenever James Wiseman starts. This is one of the first games I saw them come out and dominate from the jump when Wiseman was starting. If they keep that up, good. I'm just speaking as a fan. If they keep that up, but if not, it is what it is. I don't expect it to keep up just based on what I know from that team. But if it does, then hey, it was something I'm going to monitor. And lastly, we had the Clippers minus 2.5. This was before Paul George was listed out, but they still came through in cash for those who took it. We'll go over. I'm gonna go over a show on how injuries affect the line and how sometimes it helps teams cover even more than you would think. You would think a guy comes out of a game and that team doesn't cover, but more often than not, that team covers. But I will have a separate show on why I think that is for you guys. All right, so we're going to move on to today. Much shorter card today. We got 4 games. We're going to start off with the Charlotte Hornets and Washington Wizards. I'm breaking these down in real time. I don't have any notes or anything like that. You guys are going to see the full process of what I go through so that you can use it. Teaching you how to fish here. All right, so Charlotte Hornets are slightly above 500 at 23-22. The Washington Wizards are well below 500. Even with that, the Charlotte Hornets aren't beating teams by a lot of points. In fact, they have a losing point differential of 0.69. And if you tuned in yesterday, one of the things I said was I like to pay attention to the favorite because that's how I gauge where I'm going to go. It has nothing to do with the dog. These dogs show up out of nowhere. Sometimes they lay flat, but a lot of times they come in and they play hard. And I really base that off of the favorite and how they're performing because I like to bet when I get points. And there is a betting angle I use when I take the favorite, but most of the time you'll see me, I'm betting on an underdog. Yesterday we took the Los Angeles Clippers, and one of the reasons I said why I took them is because the line was short. What I mean by a short line is the line is shorter than what they are beating teams by on average. So I believe the Clippers were beating teams by about 6 points a game, but the line is 2.5. Normally, when you see this, it means they're facing a team that's tougher than the average competition that they play, which means they might actually show up in this spot. So I like when I get a favorite. There's more factors that go into that, but I like when I get a favorite with a short line. It's really something to look into, and I'll go deeper into my frame of mind when I go into that, when I take bets like that. So for this Charlotte Hornets game, I did look over it last night a little bit. Charlotte Hornets beat the Washington Wizards February 7th. This was a pretty easy win. They won by 22 points. So today they come in here off of a loss. I believe they lost to the Phoenix Suns. They did cover that game. Phoenix Suns were up by about 13 or 14 points in that game. In the third quarter, they let it go in the fourth and ended up blowing the cover. Washington's a very scrappy team, but they are on a back-to-back. And like I said, to start this show, Russell Westbrook had a historic performance. Just to be able to compete in that game. I don't know if he's going to be able to repeat that or if he'll even need to in order to face these Charlotte Hornets. I don't really have a play on this game. If I were to lean away, and also we don't know if Bradley Beal is going to be in, but if I was going to lean away, I would probably lean Charlotte Hornets full game. I think we're getting -3.5. That's too many points for me to actually play it. If it was close to a money line, I would, but you're not going to get a money line based on how both of these teams have been performing all season long. The line is fair, given that Washington Wizards are on a back-to-back. So this is not really a play for me. I could see Hornets winning at the buzzer here, or winning because of a couple free throws late. You could win by 4. You could win by 2. I'm not going to take this game. You're overpaying for the Charlotte Hornets here. The only way I could lean is the Charlotte Hornets. If you can get them live at the money line, that's you're getting much more value. Hopefully, the Washington Wizards come out a little fast, and you can snag the Hornets at a money line. That's what I would do, and it's probably what I will do if I can. If you need to know what I'm doing on the fly, follow my Twitter account. It's at the 140 plus sports. Actually, no, it's at the 140 plus. I changed it some years ago. I keep forgetting I did that, but that's all spelled out, no numbers, the 140 plus. All right, I'll have a link down below so that you guys can follow that. All right, we're gonna move on to the next game. Like I said, it's only 4 games. It's not gonna take very long today. Denver and the 76ers. We got the Philadelphia 76ers are 32-14 on the year. They are coming off of a loss. They're at Denver in elevation. The Denver Nuggets are 28-18. They're currently beating teams by about 5 points a game. So, and they did manhandle their last opponent, who was the Atlanta Hawks. They beat that team by about 24. So when I look at a point differential average and then I look at their last game, I kind of break that down to mean that, okay, this is their average. If they go well above this average, then I put the value on the dog if the line is either similar to their point differential, which is 5. Today's line is 4.5, I believe. Oh no, it's 5 now. So that's sitting right on the mark. So the line is fair, but I do give value to the dog here because, like I said yesterday, what goes up must come down. And I believe that this team overperformed in their last game versus the Atlanta Hawks, who aren't terrible. They have been playing much better since the coaching change. They are coming back down to earth. I believe they won 5 or 6 games, maybe even 7 games in a row after that coaching change. But now they're starting to teeter off just a little bit. But Denver Nuggets did overperform in that game, and they're playing a much tougher team with their new lineup. So they do have Aaron Gordon, they just acquired from the Orlando Magic. I think after overperforming in that game, we're going to see a much more human Denver Nuggets team today. I value that +5 much more than the -5, and I'm going to put some money on the Philadelphia 76ers here today and bet on the Denver Nuggets coming back down to earth and either losing this game or winning by less than 5. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one, and we got the Orlando Magic and Los Angeles Clippers. I saw this game yesterday, and you guys are probably going to think I'm crazy here, but we got the Los Angeles Clippers. They showed up against the Milwaukee Bucks yesterday, and that was a game that I picked. One thing you see when these teams go from beating a tough opponent to playing a much lesser opponent, and you kind of see a letdown. So I think today, and I think the Orlando Magic are coming in here off of 3 games straight. They won 3 straight games against the spread, even being short-handed. So I kind of get a feel that you're going to get a letdown here from the Clippers. And 11 points, they're only beating teams by about 5 or 6 points. They just took apart the Milwaukee Bucks. They're not going to take this game seriously tonight. I can't see it. And 11 points is just too much wiggle room for them to say, hey, we're up by 17 or 18 points. We don't care about blowing this team out. We're going to think about our next game and just let the foot off the pedal. And Orlando's probably going to cover at the end of the game. But I honestly, that's normally what I would say. But I honestly think Orlando is going to put up a fight throughout most of this game. I think when you have a scrappy team like Orlando who's shorthanded, nobody really has any game tape on most of these guys. Nobody knows how they're going to attack you just yet, especially with such a huge roster change. It's easy for a team like this to come out and hit you in the mouth, and you're fighting back the entire game. And if this team comes out fast and they get ahead of the Clippers, 11 points is a lot of points. Is a lot of points to cover. So I'm leaning here towards Orlando. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit. I might throw a half unit on this play. I like the Philadelphia 76ers a lot more. But I'm going to throw a half unit on the Orlando Magic here to put up a decent fight against the Los Angeles Clippers off of that big win yesterday. And I'm assuming that Paul George is playing, being that the line is 11.5. Everybody else was on a back-to-back. I can only see him playing in this game with the line that way. I don't even know why he rested yesterday. I didn't see any injuries from him the previous game. So, I mean, I don't know if it was some nagging injury or if they were just resting him. But why would you rest him against the Milwaukee Bucks in order to play the Orlando Magic? So it's possible they rest Kawhi tonight and they play Paul George. Who knows? But this is definitely a winnable game for the Clippers, and they know that. So they're popping champagne already. Then move on to the next one, the last game on the card, which is the Atlanta Hawks and the Phoenix Suns. Atlanta is coming off of a loss against the Denver Nuggets, and the Phoenix Suns are coming off of a win. The last couple of games I've noticed from the Phoenix Suns, they've gone up big, and then they've let the other team come back. I'm not going to say that's going to happen tonight, because at least with the Toronto Raptors, they did end up covering the closing number. They didn't cover the number before that, but they did cover the closing number. But it's something I'm noticing with the Phoenix Suns. They are better than most of these teams they're playing, but they're letting them come back into the game late. So, and when you have the Atlanta Hawks, who are coming into this game, they're actually not as hot as they were a week ago. They've only won 2 of the last 5 and covered 2 of the last 5. So you're taking a risk betting on the Hawks. The line that we're getting right now is -6, and that's right around what the Phoenix Suns are winning by. And being that they won by only 4 last game, I'm not as confident in the Atlanta Hawks covering this game, but I don't want to put money on the Phoenix Suns because of how they're letting teams come back into the game. So what I would recommend, if you can do it, and this is not a play, this is just a lean, if you can bet the third quarter, because they do a lot of their damage. I've noticed the last couple of games, they've been doing a lot of their damage in the third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter, they're letting teams come back. So if you could take a third quarter spread at half, if the game is tied, or they don't cover the first half, I like them in the third quarter. I'm not going to take them full game, so that's something I'll be looking at. So just to recap what we have today, we're going to put a full unit on the Philadelphia 76ers, and then we're going to put a half unit on full game Orlando Magic. I like the 11.5. All right, so if I have anything else, you guys can check the Twitter out. I have a link down there. I'm not really going to be using my action anymore, and the main reason is I want people to tune into this channel. If I do post plays on action, they will be very late calls, something probably just before game time. But if you want to get the bets hours before the game, tune in, subscribe, and hit the bell so that you can be notified as I post these videos. So that's it, man. If you guys have anything for me, leave it down below. Let's get this money. Have a good one.